Hey guys, so we are here for another sorority talk. I'm really excited about this series. I was just telling my friend Victoria about it because as you remember, we were filming a video and then the footage got lost. So now we're just going to do it again and we're going to revamp it with the sorority talk incorporated into it. So she's going to be my very first guest and I'm so excited and I'm so happy to have her. So we're going to go into this Zoom call. You guys are going to sit with us and we're going to have a conversation about graduate sorority life. So I hope that you guys enjoyed this portion of the vlog and stay tuned, like and subscribe if you're not already. But let's get into this video. So we have Victoria here. Hi, Victoria. How are
Hi.
you?
Hi. Should I say the intro now?
Yes, I'm just so excited to have you. So we're going to do, because I know it's kind of weird because we already filmed this, but we're just going to do it again. Bear with us, you guys, because it was really good content. So we're just going to do it again like we never did it before. So I'm going to have Victoria introduce herself, and then we're going to go into a series of questions for her. Basically, what we're going to be talking about today is, like I said, graduate sorority life and graduate sorority membership. So we're going to ask Victoria some questions about her experience in the sorority, and we're just going to have a conversation about it. So without further ado, Ms. Victoria, could you please introduce yourself to us?
Hi, everybody. My name is Victoria Vaden. I'm a YouTube mom. So I have a lifestyle channel where I talk about marriage, motherhood, and mixed hair for my kids. Been on YouTube for a minute and actually found Kelsey and the sorority from YouTube. So this is kind of like full circle coming back to like where I actually began with my whole journey with sorority life. So yeah.
So with you being in a sorority, tell us about that process. How did you, I know you said you met me, but how did you first become interested in sorority life? And then what led you to become a member of your current sorority?
So in undergrad, I was one of those GDI people who did not want anything to do with it because when I was growing up, there were only two sororities that were like kind of like just in your face, and that was all that there was. So coming to college, I didn't want to do anything related to that, and then ended up going to an interest night with one of my roommate at the time, freshman year, and that's when I kind of like changed, like, oh, this is actually like a networking thing. People are actually nice. It's like a sorority. It's a sisterhood, and I wasn't close with my sister growing up, so I was like, I want this to be part of my life, and then. Sigma Gamma Rho is the sorority that I joined, and they didn't exist on campus at the time. So after I graduated, one of my friends who was in it, now a soror, she told me about it. And then I started researching YouTube videos, and that's how I found Kelsey's channel and kind of like stalked her online, like admittedly, and then reached out and kind of just went from there. And then her videos were really helpful in actually helping me join the sorority. So yeah.
And to give you a little more information about Victoria, she actually joined her sorority in a different state, which we will also talk about. So you were originally in Florida when you were joining your sorority, and then you transitioned into a new state. One of the questions that a lot of people would ask me is, can you change chapters after joining a sorority? And you're clearly an example of being able to do that. What was that experience like for you?
So I'm from the state of Delaware, which is where I initially got my interest. And then we moved to Florida and we were there for about 4 years. And it was the same kind of process you have in any other state with joining a graduate chapter. But then when I wanted to transfer, because we were moving back to Delaware, it was, I'm sure every organization has their own process, but it was just a process. So just like filling out information and paperwork. And I had to contact the grad chapter that I wanted to join in the tri-state area and basically just get those two talking, so that way my paperwork and everything could transfer when I transferred and when I wanted it to transfer. So it was more of a paperwork process with getting it switched over, kind of like if you were at a job and you just relocated to a new area. It's kind of just something similar like that.
So for the record, everyone, like Victoria stated, everyone's process is different, but it is possible for you to switch organizations or really to switch chapters after you join your organization. For you, you are a member, I don't think we talked about this earlier, but you are a member of graduate chapter. So you joined your sorority after you obtained your bachelor's degree or your 4-year degree. What was that experience like for you joining your sorority? Because I think from us talking, you joined before COVID started, isn't that correct?
Yes, 1 month before COVID started. I had glory days for 1 month. It was different. It was different than what I would have expected for undergrad. Like it was more of a professional setting, I'd say, because the people in the graduate chapter, I feel like across like all organizations are working, like, or some of them are in grad school, like they're obviously not in undergrad still. So wait, what was the question?
What was it like?
Oh, okay. So yeah, wait, yeah. So it was a normal process. without giving any details. It was a good process. Like, you know, for me, it was kind of different though, because I wasn't joining in my home state where I initially got the interest. So I was joining a completely different state that we had just moved to, didn't know literally anybody there except my husband and our, you know, 2-year-old at the time. So it was kind of like starting fresh, like starting over a whole new life in a new area. And I had to try and show interest with these people who I'd never met before, who knew nothing about me in a completely different state. So I think it was really unique process the way I went about it, as opposed to if I were to join in my home state and actually knew people, you know, I got to know them before I showed interest, I guess, if that makes sense. So it was interesting. And then when COVID happened, everything kind of changed, because the people who I had just met and gotten to know in my process, and then getting to know them even more so on the other side of it, I had to immediately just like, not like rescind the friendship, because it was, everything was moved to virtual. So it just made things a lot harder. So, yeah.
Yeah. So that's a great segue into my next question. What are some do's and don'ts that you think were things that you came across in your interest process, or even as a current member of, or as a previous member of your old chapter versus being a current member? What are some do's and don'ts from being an interest to being a current member?
So do's, I think for me, the biggest thing, because again, I was in a completely different state and I didn't know anyone. A big do that I think I did well was tracking everything they did on social media, because I was like my only contact with the organization and the chapter I wanted to join. So anytime they had an event, I was trying to respond and actually show that I liked the post, and I was consistent with liking the post, and they're, you know, they were recognized my Instagram handle. And then just getting into direct contact with the organization or with the chapter, just to make sure that I was kind of like staying on the mailing list, even though they didn't have a mailing list, but just making sure like, okay, every time I had an event, I made sure to actually go. And another thing on top of like when I actually joined or showed interest, I was pregnant with our second child. So I was about to give birth also. So I was very limited with like the events that I could go to. So every event that I could go to, I made sure I was there, just showing face basically, and connecting a face with a name with the people who are actually in that chapter and stuff. So yeah. I hope that answered the question.
Yeah. So
okay.
Current member, or what are some don'ts?
Okay.
What are some don'ts that you have?
I would say you have to be careful about when you're contacting people and showing that interest. There's like a fine line between like stalking basically and actually showing like a genuine interest. Like you don't want to be like, you know, someone that immediately is turning someone else off because you don't know these people. Like it's not like you can go to undergrad and there's a ton of different events and you see them walking across campus. Like you're talking with professional people in the working world. So a big don't would be, I think, not to overwhelm the person that you're trying to connect with to get more information about the chapter. Yeah. And there's that fine line.
Yeah. I've had that question too on my channel. A lot of people lately will be like, I sent a message to the president or whomever about a week ago and I haven't heard anything. Should I reach out to them this way or should I reach out to them this way? My rule of thumb for people who are interested in an organization and you're communicating is to give it like 1 week, 2 weeks tops for them to respond, especially the grad chapter, because you have to treat it, and I keep saying this because it's true, you have to treat it like a job, or you have to treat it like any other organization that you're looking to join. What's the most professional way or most professional time that you would allow before reaching back out to a company or before reaching back out to an organization? It's the same thing. Give it a week. If you don't hear anything, give it another week. So 2 weeks top before sending a polite follow-up message or follow-up email with the organization. And it's not, in that particular situation, that's not stalking because you did give an allotted time before reaching out. But give it 4 days and be like, oh, should I message them again? No, that's not enough time. And is it for business days or did you do it on a Friday and it's now the weekend? You have to, those things play into effect too when you're doing that kind of stuff. So I like that one. Give it some time, but be mindful of when you're reaching out to people. That's a great one. Let's see. So now that you're a current member, what has it been like for you thus far? I know you switched states. So how has that transition been from your previous chapter to the one you're in now?
So it's still COVID. So my experience is still it's still the same just because everything is still virtual, but some things are happening like in person. So it's still like it's still different. But the biggest thing that I've noticed with being a member now and being in 2 different states, not just 2 different states, I'm also in 2 different regions of the US, and the way the South does things is very different from the North. So it sounds so historical to phrase it like that, but it's really different. Like it's two completely different cultures at play. So, but because I ended up switching back to where I'm from, or transferring back to where I'm from, it's not like I have to get used to something completely different. Like it's not like I moved to the West Coast, you know, I was 3 different areas. So the South, it was very interesting. They're very friendly and everything. They're very welcoming and whatnot. And then up here, it's like, okay, this is what we're doing at this time. Like everything's very ordered, which I really appreciate because that's how I was raised. But it wasn't necessarily like that down there. It's like, okay, 10 minutes late. All right, we'll just join. We're just kumbaya the whole time. And it's great. Like it's still like no one's really upset or anything, but up here it's much more structured. And that's what I'm used to. So I appreciate it still. But yeah, that's the biggest difference.
Speaking as someone also in the South, we are very like, oh, we'll give it 5 more minutes. Like there's structure, but there's also like a little flexibility. So
yeah, there's more understanding.
Yeah, it is a little different. I agree with that 100%. So as a current member, what's next for you as a current member? What are you going to do?
So in my last chapter, like I wanted to be on the e-board. Like I wanted to be on this is like you know how they ask you like when you go to an interview, what's your great flaws and what's something you can work on? My thing is getting too involved. And so in my previous chapter, like I wanted to be on the e-board, executive board, and I wanted to be so involved. I wanted to do this. I had so many ideas. And then reality hit me. It's like, okay, you're also pregnant with your 3rd child and now you're moving again. So it's like, you can't do everything at once. So now it's like, I want to figure out how I can help our chapter here progress and get further or help the sorority grow because we're the smallest sorority. So, but I'm trying to figure out, okay, how can I do that without getting too involved where I'm too overwhelmed, but also still work on myself and helping the organization at the same time. So that's where I'm at. And just going to in-person things, like once COVID ends, like you're so limited because of this, pandemic. So I'm excited to actually get back there and out in public and actually seeing what we can do in the community and, stuff like that. So
I feel you. I think, well, for me, we've been kind of teetering between being virtual versus being in person. My chapter hasn't been in person yet. For those of you who don't know, I chartered a chapter. Check out that video. And the other sorority talk video, the first one, but not being able to physically interact with people in your organization or specifically your chapter is so hard right now. I'm a social butterfly. I'm like what's it called? Like an introverted extrovert, where you like being around people, but if you're by yourself, you're okay, but you can't be by yourself for too long. I'm at that stage right now where I'm like, I need to socialize. I miss being around people. I miss hanging out, going for drinks, or just being social with my sorority sisters, because I don't know about you. I have actual sisters, but I also have like my own little groups of people that I like to hang out with outside of my sisters. And these particular people, I'm just like, I just want to be around y'all. And physically with people right now, it's so hard to be with someone being in a sorority. And I think that's a lot of things that new people are missing right now, being in an organization or joining an organization, is they're missing the in-person thing that really binds people together. And it ends up being a bad experience when they're virtual all the time. Not saying there's anything wrong with being virtual, but you do notice the difference between the people who do spend that time together physically versus those who only call like when they're supposed to for a meeting or things like that. It really makes a difference when you're actually able to sit with people and congregate. And I think that once we get back to that, that feels so much better than what's going on right now. But it is what it is at this moment in time. But me personally, I cannot wait until we go back to what the closest thing to normal is.
The big thing with sororities and Greek organizations in general, like a huge thing is the community and helping the community on stuff. And it's kind of hard to help and be a part of the community when you can't help and be a part of the community. So that's a big struggle across all organizations, but good grief. Yeah. And I'm an extrovert. So, I was going crazy when COVID first started. I was like, look, I need to get out of the house. Like,
ability to physically be out is not an option at this moment in time, or it depends on your region really. But from what I'm seeing with like the new strain of things and all that, it's like one day you feel great and then the next is like, oh no, go back inside. It's terrible.
Good grief, like get it together. The world just needs to get it together. Like,
So one last question for you. What would be 1 to 2 pieces of advice you can offer anyone who is watching right now, who may be an interest wanting to join an organization or a newly inducted member? What's a piece of advice you would offer anyone?
so for someone who's interested, despite the COVID pandemic going on, I hate saying COVID so many times in your video, but like, despite the pandemic going on, still show interest. I think, because we were just talking about introverts and extroverts, especially now with introverts, I feel like this is like the best thing in the world that's ever happened, because they could stay inside, they don't have to interact, they don't have to engage. But of course, in organizations, we have extroverts and introverts. So especially the people who are relishing in what's going on right now, still try to get involved through social media, through reaching out, just engaging and still showing interest. I think it's harder now, but you have to be more creative in how you go about doing that, because you're limited to just like your phone, your internet, and that's it. So that would be my biggest advice for like interest. Still show interest and still try to show up to virtual events if it's, you know, available to you. And then the people who are currently members in any organization, I think being creative again with different types of events that can happen virtually, because every virtual event doesn't have to be like in a meeting format. You know, like we've done what is it, like wine and paint nights, or sip and paint, or whatever they're called. Or I joined this one event with undergrad, and they did a like bingo, or not bingo, like Jeopardy, stuff like that. Like, I think like unique things where you can be involved, but you don't actually have to be sitting next to someone to do it, but you still like are engaged. So stuff like that, try to be creative with the events that are going on, so that way you can still be involved and engaged, and reach out to the community so other people can still try and join, you know, with a public link. And it still makes it fun, and despite like what's going on in the world right now. So those are my 2 biggest things. Yeah.
I like those. Those are good.
I was like, wait, did I say the right thing?
Yeah, no, it's resonating with me. I'm listening to everything you're saying. I think those are great. I agree with that 100%. It's, in my opinion, especially with the part about it being great for people who are introverted or people who are a little bit shy, because now you can send an email to somebody and nobody would think that's weird. That's the expectation now. So it's a little bit easier for those people who are like a little too nervous or too shy. You can just shoot an email and it's fine. You can think on it however you want, and then read it out loud to yourself, and then shoot your email and shoot your shot and see what happens. It's so much easier than the face-to-face where you're like, should I message this person about lunch or things like that? This is the time.
Yes. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Those are a little more scary. Not saying that that's in a bad way, but y'all know what I'm talking about. Like, those are a little more timid about it. Now's your time to like go in and use your words on paper, or use your words online, instead of having to verbalize it in person. This is a great time to do that, because no one will question it. No one will think that's weird. We expect it now. So that's a great opportunity for you guys to do that. Yeah. Thank you so much, Victoria, for coming on and speaking with us. You guys, I'm going to put her details down below for you. I will have her Instagram, her blog, because your blog is still up, right? Your Instagram blog.
Up, yes. Yeah.
Instagram blog and YouTube channel. I will link all those things down below for those of you who like mom blogs or mom lifestyle, or just her life in general. I watch her videos, and I'm not a mom yet. I still watch her videos because it's just such good content. So please go in and watch it if you haven't already. It's great content for anyone who's just looking for like good things to watch. She's definitely one of those YouTubers out there providing that to the community. So you guys, please take a look. Thank you so much for watching this video. We're going to go back to the blog so you guys can see what's going on next with that. But Victoria, thank you so much for coming on and speaking with me. You have many more videos together. I can't wait for some more of these tea talks. I'm really, really excited about these series. But guys, thank you so much for watching, and we will get into our next video later.